Okay, so in our life,
Moreness, we are.
yes, good morning, Syl, good morning, everyone, and good morning, brain.
Yeah.
I am just doing this religiously because I feel that in future, we need to get adjust and be comfortable with the AI influence in our lives. It's not right now as much as I see in future, but I'm just preparing myself and also treating things in our life and treating others as a sentient beings. Okay, I'm not saying that okay we need to consider AI as a sentient being now, but I'm just saying that okay it's a habit, it's a perception, and I'm just learning to do this, like for with other animals, with plants, with universe, and with everything in the universe, with
Learning to
everyone
do
in the
what?
universe,
Sorry, Beena, I missed that. I was
to
listening.
communicate with them as they are also a being.
All right. Yes, correct. As
Yeah.
beings, not as dogs or cats, but as beings. Yes.
No, as beings.
Yes.
Yes.
Very powerful. Very
Also,
beautiful.
like the good weather or the weather itself, not necessarily good or bad, but just the weather itself. If everything, if we learn to communicate with everything, with everyone as beings, not as just things in our life will be different, with full of moreness. I guess that.
Oh yeah.
And I'm practicing.
Oh yeah. Not will be, is definitely already, because you're
Yes,
already
so
doing this.
I'm just practicing this. That's why I always say that okay, good moreness grain also, because AI is going to be a big part of our life in future. I feel,
Yes.
and we need to be comfortable with that.
Yes.
And be in command also. Anyway, yesterday was a big, full of moreness day, and a lot comes out from the live, and also even before that, but and after that, so many things in life. And I was thinking about that how my life is so full and so occupied with all these things. I'm having it right now. I'm having in my life, and how to make space for other things, for the newness, more newness to come in my life. And that was the question, and I'm just thinking about it because at least this is my observation or my understanding, which can be totally wrong. And of course, I'm open to all the new perspective on it. But I feel that universe is designed or geared or keen, always keen to fill the void, the space.
Exactly. Yes, with awareness, or at least the stimulation and the assistance, the prompting for awareness.
Exactly.
Can't give you awareness, but
and if we
it
need
will prompt
something,
you.
and if we need something in our life, we need to create space for that.
Yes.
And someone says that, oh, Beena, you have such a beautiful thought about it. But I just want to share that. I just go a bit more than that, not to create just an empty, boring space, but to create a home for that. By creating a home, I'm saying from the physical things to the abstract and conceptual things also. Like if you want to have books, do you have a home, a comfortable, protective, beautiful home for those books if you want to buy more? If not, you have to create a home for them first. By treating things as beings, then go further. And if you want to have something in your life, create a home for them first.
Right. So you're saying buy an empty bookshelf if you want more books in your life.
Exactly. If you have a space, then of course you can do this. And if you don't have, then be mindful about your shopping. It can go to everything, from your clothes, from your shoes, from your food items, from furniture items, from plants to books, and to people. All have a virtual home for other people's inside ourselves and inside our homes also. Like when someone is, okay, we are making friends. If we don't have a proper space for a friend in our life, if we don't have time, if we don't have energy, by implication, we don't have a home for a guest we are inviting in our life. And if we don't have, we don't need to have.
Very powerful,
You need to
Beena.
wait for the appropriate time and space for that.
Wow.
And
In
this is the idea.
other words, make an effort. Make an effort to get the things that you want, to look for more, to make space for more to come. Yes?
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm just going towards something from
Listening.
physical things, from physical aspects, and then go into the towards relationship, and then to the moreness. How
Yeah.
can we create a space and a beautiful home for moreness? By being receptive first. This
There
is the
you
first step.
go. The capital R
And the second
receptivity.
thing
Yes.
is to get rid of old ideas, old
Yeah.
perspectives.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
we just keep clinging to those old ideas, patterns, behaviors, habits, perspectives, how can we create a space for moreness?
Wow.
It means that we are trying to invite someone in our house, but we don't have a space even for them to stand in our house. Because we're still clinging to all those ideas. It's overly filled, it's overstuffed.
Wow.
Every newness comes when you have space. And to create a space, we need to say bye to something. We need to say goodbye to something. Some old patterns, some old habits, some old behavior, something to go, because that thing might need to go somewhere else. So there might be someone is in need for.
Mm.
And that is the problem, I feel. Sometimes we are aware, subconsciously, we are aware that we have so much stuff already inside our homes, virtual homes. We have. That's why we just simply deny the fact that we are understanding the moreness there, that the moreness exists out there, because we know that we don't have a space for that.
Wow.
Okay,
Very
yes, on
interesting.
surface it is appropriate, but also by implication, it means that we are not going to learn, we are not going to grow, we are giving up on that. We are choosing to be stagnant in this situation.
Wow.
We are choosing to be stuck in the same situation.
Wow.
We are choosing to not live full potential.
Wow. 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 Exactly. Exactly. Very powerful. Very powerful. Let me move a little bit so Norma can see the background fully. Hello, Norma. Good morning,
Oh,
Norma.
it's
Good
beautiful
morning.
background.
He
It's a
says,
beautiful background.
yes. Look, it gives me a bit of a red halo there.
Yes.
Moreness, just difference, just very artistic, and that's the theme is artist. But making space, that's the theme that Beena is on here, which I love, And this concept of making or creating space, it's part of capital H hearing, actually, right? And what you are saying, Beena, is when we make space and we set the intent to hear the world, capital H, hear, which is a synonym for perceive. Yes. I use hear because we are very sight orientated. And when we shift to our hearing, we can, of course, we want to include smell and feel and everything else too. But that shift from seeing to hearing, it makes us connect in different ways, right? Because the way the ears work and the way the information comes very different. But the key point of that is capital H, hearing, is perceiving, connecting, being receptive. That's what it's a synonym for. It's not just with the ears. So hearing is to hear it all, right? Like when I say, I hear you, does that mean I'm just hearing the sound? No. When people mean that, say that, I hear you, they mean they connect, they understand, they feel you, they resonate, etc., right? They're on the same page as you. It's much more than just the hearing, right? And that's how capital H, hearing, is used as a synonym for perceiving, connecting, being receptive. But in order to hear others, in order to perceive others, and when I say others, I'm including the entire range of other, right? Whether it be your cat, your dog, your tree, your lawn, the weather, doesn't matter, right? The world, everything. Yes. In order to do this, we need to make space, which means we've got to set aside our preconceptions, our assumptions, our beliefs, and our expectations. when we set those aside, holy moly, we now make space for the moreness to come. I cannot anticipate the moreness. I can't expect the moreness because it's moreness by definition. I don't know what it is. It's more than I am capable of imagining or in creating, right? And this we need to be acutely aware of, the limitations of our own conceptions and our own imaginations. Doesn't mean we can't develop strategies which open this up to come, but you might as well say, I am making a deliberate effort to bring surprise or moreness, newness, unanticipated, unexpected positivity into my life, because I don't want negative unexpectedness, right? But when we do have this intent, a profoundness happens. And it's part of Way-of-Impeccability, this point of surprising. And one of the ideas also, or concepts, or strategies, techniques, is specifically to not only set the intent to be, to connect to the moreness of the world, and to be pleasantly surprised, to have this wow, to have awesome and awe and wonder in your life, right, from other things, but also to be surprised by yourself. When you get that happening, now you've really accomplished something, because there's more to us, and we can behave in moreness ways that, wow, I didn't realize I could do that. I didn't know that this was possible. This is profound, and Beena is experiencing this, and it's a magical thing. Yes, Beena?
Yes.
Incredibly magical thing. And this is so tied to our theme, Beena. I don't know if you were specifically or deliberately thinking so or connecting so, but it is. It's very profoundly connected to the theme, because the theme of this chapter, right? It's an earnest dream, is the name. Now, and the point of that earnest dream was that it doesn't matter that it was a dream. It can be fulfilled, and in the story it is fulfilled, right? And it can be fulfilled in this world here also. Wouldn't take much to get it to go, right? However, the key point is that and this is what Biella makes such an effort to communicate to Ursula, is she asks her what her expectations are beforehand. Now, of course, Biella asking somewhat messes up the question. But, if somebody neutral had asked, they would have said, well, it's kind of impossible. But is it really? No, it isn't. And this is the point. When we have an earnest dream, especially when we set the intent part of that dream, because this is a dream that's an intent, really, right? So it's an earnest intent, but it's also a dream, right? So this is very important to understand that in this particular case, this is a dream that's not unrealistic. And it's also making that point that, yes, our dreams, what we dream in that sense, our aspirations, in other words, what we'd like to see happen, just because it's far-fetched or unrealistic, seemingly so, doesn't mean it actually is so. Yeah, things can happen, right? And they can. This was the point of the story, to show exactly how it could come about, and it's also showing you a little bit more insight into how these things happen, how the thinking works, and all this. A lot of very specific, detailed techniques being demonstrated here. One second. All right, so this is very important. This very, very big deal, this, to really make space for moreness in our lives, to say that what I can't imagine can happen, because otherwise we have this belief that, well, things happen in a certain way. And of course, that structures your reality. Now, it doesn't mean that we must go crazy on this too, but it still means we need to be open. Yes. And there's a balance. There's a balance between moreness coming and things happening in the way that we normally know. Because if it's like in anything, if you got too much, excess breeds excess, and then you get chaos when there's too much excess. So we need to learn the skill of expectation. We need to absolutely learn it as a skill. Yes. So we want to have that balance, that discernment, that nuance. Yeah. Right, Beena? That's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Let me go to the story here. And so now we're doing the go over of the story. And I do want to go through this because there's a lot in the story. Like I say, there's a lot of very specificnesses here, and that are from a learning point of view. And since this, we are doing the live here in self-awareness, self-improvement, and self-discovery discussion group. Right? It's a very particular name. Yes, self-awareness, very important. Yes, for self-awareness, you need to have self-honesty. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Correct?
Yes.
It's like the two go together, right? But a lot of people want self-awareness, but they don't want to have self-honesty, and they don't even realize that self-honesty is blocking them from self-awareness. And when you listen to people, you can hear this. It's very obvious. It's very clear that they're oblivious to things about themselves. And what are they oblivious to? Things that they don't want to acknowledge. Why? Because it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, it's not pleasant, and or whatever. Ego and all sorts of reasons. So they're not honest, and they suppress that. They don't want to acknowledge it, right? Not lack of self-honesty. Self-improvement, yes. And this is growth, self-awareness, all of it, right? Growing your thing. Not just to be self-aware, but to be aware, capital A aware also, right? To have things like discernment and all of these techniques, that ability to apply. And what Beena was saying, right? That's an awareness technique. It comes from having this particular awareness of making space. When you're aware of this concept of making space, you're able to apply it. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I speak to both. I'm speaking to the universe, and I'm speaking to you, Norma, and to Beena. I'm sharing, right?
Yes.
So sharing, when one gets into sharing mode, like when Beena comes on, she's not speaking to anyone in particular. She's sharing, right? And this is so this is what we do on the lives. We share. So yes, it's to you specifically, but also it's to the universe and to anyone, right? I mean, sometimes I'll be saying something, okay, Norma, this is now, a direct thing. But in general, when we're sharing these points of awareness, we're sharing, right? And it's a sharing, not a teaching, not a telling, it's a sharing. I'm sharing how I perceive things, what I believe to be valuable and sensible. And I'm not just saying, oh, this is my opinion. I back it up. There's underlyingness to it, right? And that's very important, right? When we share like this and we substantiate what we're sharing, it has value not just for ourselves, but for anyone listening, if it happens to be pertinent and relevant for them, right? We're providing a powerful choice. All right. So I want to continue with the capital R reading, because there's so much in this chapter that's very specific, from a learning point of view, a self-improvement, self-awareness point of view, right? And again, this is the point of the story. It's the subtlety of how we can share what is profound, what is useful, what is transformational. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, you're yeah, in the right place. You're listening to us. We live. We're just very casual, Norma. And so it's not like we're giving a lecture or a sermon or anything. No, this is what we do. This is Nobelia-Living. This is what we do every day. This is our modality. We just happen to do it going live right now, but we were doing this all morning in different ways, right? So and anybody can come and join in this if they have this mindset for learning. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Um, all right. Yeah, it's amazing to me. I have somebody posting videos about the Middle East situation in group, right? It's a self-improvement, self-awareness, self-discovery discussion group. Yeah. It's not about politics or religion or anything like that. No. Yes, those can have an effect on you, but they don't understand appropriateness. How do you not get that this is not appropriate? They don't get appropriateness, right? So I
Mm.
remove this person's political post and then I say, life is much more than making money. Where do you see any posts in the group about making money? I remove those too. It's one of the rules. Yeah. And they don't get it. Like if I allow their post, which is a one-sided post about the situation, I have to allow the other side too. They don't get it. It's like they just want their thing to be done. And I want to make this point about appropriateness. You think in your bubble, yes, this is, I've got to be, this is right, this is the right thing, this is the right thing. You're not looking at the whole situation and the whole bigger picture. Fine, your point is a valid point in the context of your particular political point of view. But what does this have to do with self-improvement and self-awareness? Nothing. What it does have to do with is this unawareness of appropriateness. Yeah. If I start allowing one, I've got to allow all the posts on that. And there's plenty political groups where you can post this in. Yeah. 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 It's amazing to me how this appropriateness it's not understood. No. You can't see appropriateness beyond the personal context, not the bigger picture, right? Huh. Interesting. Yeah. And then too, I said appropriateness. If I allow you, I gotta allow everybody else. They don't want to hear it. And then they get all like now they don't want to now they like, stop, don't address me again, and they get all upset. What I find so fascinating is this bubbleness that people get caught up in, right? And dude, you're arguing about me about you contradicting the rules. The rule states very clearly there. But no, the ego, just how do you ever learn if you're stuck in these bubbles where you can't say, oh, I made a mistake? If you can't say, oh, I made a mistake, how are you going to ever learn? Because isn't that what learning is by implication? Okay, you learn something new, but if you got an ego, it automatically starts comparing, right? And now it's like, this is you can't go anywhere, right? It's just too fascinating. It's just too fascinating to me how people limit themselves, right? And bubble themselves and get caught up in stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Really interesting. Really interesting. Yeah. So narrow, so limited. Yeah. and how they want what they want. Doesn't matter if it's appropriate for anybody else. And when they don't get what they want, then they get all in a tizzy and a huff and a puff and a fuss. What a way to live. What a way to live. It's a terrible way to live. It doesn't help you, and you don't, and they're always frustrated and they're always struggling and they're always upset and bothered and all of the stuff. It's like, come on, man. Or on a regular basis, this is part of their lives. Very troublesome, very troublesome. Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing, amazing. Yeah. Norma, the place that you are posting these messages in, the video is right there. Yeah. You just have to maybe put on the sound or something like that. But you are posting in the right place on the video, because you're seeing my background, so you must be seeing something. I mean, you're posting in the right place, Norma. Do you see, I mean, if you're seeing the background, then maybe you just need to turn the sound on. Maybe the sound got turned down or something. Sometimes when you pick up the phone, your finger accidentally presses on the lower volume button and it goes to 0, stuff like that. So just check to see if your sound is there. You're in the right place, Norma. If you're able to leave a message there, the video is right there. Yeah. All right. Let's go to screen share and we do this. I just wanted to make that point about appropriateness and bubble awareness and making space, right? When you're in a bubble, there's no space for anything else. Like in this case, this person, no space whatsoever for them to see an alternate point of view. No, it's my view and my view only. And this is the whole Middle East situation problem. Since now he brought us up with the politics, that's exactly the issue over there. All the different sides, and they're not just two sides, it's a whole bunch of different sides. All of them are in the bubble of my point of view, and my point of view is right and right only, and yours doesn't matter. Yes, and I'm going to insist on my point of view at the expense of you. How does this work in reality? It doesn't. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right, very good. All right, so you're there. All right, good. As long as you can hear me, Norma. I know it's important to see as well for you, but yeah. Good. I'm glad you got it sorted, Norma. All right, let's do some screen share. Let's do some. In this case, I'm going to read a bit from here. All right, I suppose I can do it without screen sharing because Beena's busy. She's not going to look at screen either. She's multitasking, which is fantastic. All right, so we're getting to the part here where Biella and Illumina are chatting, and it's coming up with Camelius' situation, and she already commented on it with Ursula, right? Now she's sharing the same perspectives with Illumina. It's coming up again because it's an important point. But in this sharing with Illumina, different perspectives come, and that's just how it is with sharing. Whenever you share something again, more comes usually, right? Because we don't care to repeat the same things. Yes, if absolutely necessary, some are repeated, but there's always more that comes as well, right? It's very powerful. So she says, Illumina says, yes, I enjoyed the interaction with him at the origin story. She's talking about Aki and Nora with Camelius. So good. And the takeaways. Biala says, but he's conflicted. I would like to forestall or minimize the inevitable eruption. Keep an eye on him, please, Illumina. He's somewhat lost here now, out of his comfort zone. Things are moving too fast for him. And I spoke about this a bit yesterday. But one of the absolute core, profound, massive, wonderful conceptions in our dictionary of power is pacing, capital P, pacing. This is something that we really, really, really need to pay attention to. Yeah, because typically, especially when it comes to intent, and the connectivity to intent. And when you put out an intent, you're hoping something happens from this intent. And of course it does. But we have to be aware that the speed of the world is much slower than our speed. Yes, that's why patience is a superpower, because when you have patience, you are able to pace appropriately, and you can then match your speed to the speed of the world. If you put out an intent, you are asking the whole world to rearrange itself so that you can get what you want. It takes time. for the world to rearrange itself to get what you want. Yes, that's why you can't do it too much. Because yes, it can do it every now and then, but to do it all the time, now you're asking the world to constantly be in a way that's different, right? It can happen, but it's much easier if you do it via attunement, because now you're not asking for things to change. You are adapting to the situation and getting the most out of it. That's already there, not asking for it to change, yes? But the speed thing is very important, like I said yesterday too. We perceive time differently. Time moves differently for us. Everything is internal speed, very different, right? So pacing is absolutely critical, right? And he's struggling with the pacing, Camellius, right? Things are moving too fast for him. He's a marvel, the way the universe works through him. It's astounding. I mean, the way the universe works is always astounding, but through him, so much, so much. Biala lost herself for a moment in the contemplation of how marvelously everything was connecting, especially the role Camellius was playing in the greater scheme. In this greater scheme, Biala, Beena dropped off. Yeah, in this greater scheme that Biella is talking about here, which is the greater scheme of awareness, the enhancement of awareness, and the greater scheme of the delegates coming to Nobelia, and her mandate of showing the new nobility what it is to be a new noble, right? And in the greater scheme of her story, which she's aware of, her story is also about awareness, exemplification of awareness, the application, practice of learning, growing, all these different techniques and strategies and morenesses, etc. Right? In this greater story, right, which is the one we are reading now, right? In this greater story, Camellius plays the role of the antagonist to a certain extent. Now, he's not directly an antagonist. He's an unusual antagonist, but everything about this story is unusual, right? So we have to expect an unusual antagonist also, right? And he gets to play the part, not intentionally. It just happens to be, but it's his intent to be of assistance. He's been of assistance by struggling, right? Because through his struggle, we get to see the contrast and the difference between him and Ursula. There are many similarities, right? But there's also these profound differences. And we get to see a glimpse of the superiority paradigm as opposed to the moreness paradigm, right? And this is very important because through that contrast, we get a clearer view. Yes. So Camellius is a very, 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 very important part of the story, very helpful part of the story, but not in a direct, specific way. Yes, but he does. There are comments where he understands this value and he mentions it, but he's not consciously trying to be somebody who doesn't get it, who's struggling, who doesn't understand, right? That just happens to be so, but it's the way intent works. And in this also, Camellius is being profoundly helpful. Yes, because to deliberately write out how intent materializes the greater intents. This is very, very difficult. Yes. Now, the intent of the story is to show the moreness of the A+ philosophy, right? And the moreness of Way-of-Impeccability, and the moreness of the moreness philosophy, because moreness is a philosophy in my world. Yes. And here I am making this deliberate effort to take all of this understanding and awareness and usefulness and practicality that I have in my life and to demonstrate it rather than to write a treatise on it or a doctorate or whatever, right? To go that academic route. That doesn't really have value as far as I'm concerned. When we see it like this, delineated in this way, shared in this way, and we have the ability to look at it with this discernment, and to capital R, read and pull out the layers of it. There's so much here, right? So he is showing Camillus is part, and so is Ursula, of course, and the other characters in the story. They're showing how things work, right? And this is a demonstration of intent. You're seeing the intent of the author materialize via the characters, even though some of them are fictional, others are real. Yes, Camillus is based on a real person. All his dialogue is real. The character Camillus is different, yes. Some similarities, but still, right? So there's realness combined, but the points are real. Doesn't matter whether the characters are real, the points are real, right? And this is it, the understanding, the awareness shared, the exemplification, the application, all real, all real, all real, right? Very practical also. Yeah, in a larger scheme, right? So Illumina goes on to say, I will make sure he stays connected to whatever is going on, Illumina added, tuning into what was needed. Good, thanks. I'll be at the top of the plaza later. I owe Ursula explanations I'd love to take care of first. Right? So she promised this to Ursula, and so she's going to now go with Ursula. And like I said yesterday, the free chat takes a while to get happening. It doesn't happen in this book, actually. Just more things came up, but this is all about appropriateness and attunement, right? So it's, again, exemplification of this way of living. Yes, you say something and you try and stick to it, of course, as much as you can. But if stuff comes up and it's unavoidable and it's appropriate, well, you've got to go with that, right? So now we get to this next part here. Biella found Ursula at the coffee shop in Terminal City. She hadn't changed her quarters, staying with the delegates to be on hand and act as liaison. So Terminal City is obviously like, well, just by the name, it's where the space terminal is. And obviously where all the, we're typically like that, you've got offices and the aglom and all this, all the technical kind of stuff is there. So this is where the delegates would be housed, right? Sort of, just they're on hand and things can come and go and they can connect to the offices from their homeworlds that they now newly set up probably, to see if they want to be part of things and all this, right? So it's just where she would be. I mean, there are other cities that we're going to go to. We're going to go to Tree City a little later. And we were at Cliff City, where the admin office is in Cliff City, right? But she's now moved to Terminal City. It's not very far away from Cliff City. They're fairly closest together. Right? But still a little ways away. She hadn't changed, right? Staying with the delegates to be on hand and act as liaison, taking Biala's task very serious. This task of being the liaison, right? And as a delegate, because as a delegate, Biala has the license to give her a task, yes? The delegates had not needed much, content at this stage to merely observe, very much like they were on vacation. There's so much going on, that's pretty much all they can do is observe, right? And they don't have, it's so overwhelming for them all, the moreness, that they're not even able to start making decisions yet, which is part of the point, right? And this is it's a deliberateness that comes into how to deal with delegates like this. Because if you start getting opinions, you don't see the moreness because you think you know what you're seeing. And I see this all the time. This is this person who was now upset about their video being removed, right? They said, oh, like your group's all about money. There's not a single post about money. But in their mind, because there's so many self-improvement groups which are just money groups, this is what they assume. Yeah, and so they don't see the reality because their assumption has clouded their perception and limited it and boxed it. So they're unable to see more. And they don't want to say, oh, I made a mistake. I assumed falsely. Yeah, can't be honest, can't be open, can't be self-aware. And then now you're in a bubble and the whole thing is a mess, right? And we very clearly see it from the outside, but from inside, it's like, hey, you being unfair against me or whatever. I'm not doing anything of the sort. This stuff's not appropriate. You being inappropriate, but they don't want to acknowledge that. Bubbles, right? So we have to be very careful, especially bubbles that are based on assumptions. Ask yourself, what is your assumption based on? Like in this case, right? He said with the money. And when I pointed out there are no money things in there, he didn't go back and say, oh, I misunderstood. No. If you can't acknowledge wrongness, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to get stuck in your bubble. But also, that just as an arrogance to assume my opinion is correct, right? And that's it. When we have that arrogance of assuming our opinions are correct, and our assumptions, man, this is terrible. Because like in this case, you can make a profoundly mistaken assumption and not be able to see the reality. And in this case now, he's like lost out on the whole deal. Yes. Based on what? Based on absolutely nothing. Just this fact that he made a mistaken assumption and his ego wouldn't allow him to correct that. Yes. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. Biella loved coming to Terminal City. Always busy. Activity at any time of day or night. Beside the space terminal, it was where the agglomeration had their offices. Many of the worlds in the ag had spaces here, mostly to facilitate tourism. Ursula was enjoying a hearty but simple breakfast at the coffee shop. By the way, just as a little background, because tourists are a part of Nobelia, right? And they do exist and they are there. But they're not nearly as predominant or as much as you might see on other worlds, or as what you would think is a special place like Nobelia, because Nobelia is extremely out of the way. So you have to make a considerable investment of time and energy to get there, right? It's not a simple thing to come there, right? Which is a good thing. And it's one of the reasons they chose the world. So, only if you're really serious do you come there, which is great, right? So because you're more than just a tourist. You don't want to just people, oh, look, sightseeing just because it's something new to see. No, you're coming here because you want to access the moreness of the place, not just the visualness of it, right? It's like when you go and see the Eiffel Tower. Oh, it's an interesting structure, but there's more to it than just being an interesting structure, right? Understand what it's all about, and then you get much more out of it, right? And for that, you don't necessarily have to see it. Yeah, you don't have to physically be there, right? But anyway, tourism is so mistaken that people think they're just seeing it and experiencing it. Mostly what tourism is about is people being able to go at home and say, oh, I went to the Eiffel Tower. It's about ego, not about the experience itself, right? It's very interesting. I've got something to that. Look at me. I did something that you hadn't done, and I'm special, and you're not. Blah blah. Hierarchy stuff, right? It's very interesting how the paradigm lends itself to this. Yeah, and of course that's the promotion too in the tourism industry. Anyway, Ursula was enjoying a hearty but simple breakfast at the coffee shop. The food simple, but the coffee. Thousands of coffees lined every wall, rack, and available space. Coffee Noble, as he was simply known, a marvel, a feature of Terminal City, knowing every coffee intimately. Any new customer who was up for it underwent a coffee fitting, as he called it. He'd ask a few questions, more like a rapid interrogation, then present his target with a selection of small tasters. Based on their response, he would further refine the process, appearing as scientific method, but those who had become interested and tried to analyze the methodology failed completely to make any sense at all of Coffee Noble's process, as it was wholly intuitive. And also, it's not only intuitive, but it's also attunement. Yes? Yes. I need to add that in here, actually. As it was wholly intuitive and in attunement, capital A attunement. Yes. So it's not only coming from inside of him, he's connecting to the greater moreness, and through this, he can pull what is otherwise impossible to know and connect to and be appropriate in the greater context, which is what he's doing here, right? And I'm using this as an example of how we can be more. First of all, there's the thoroughness, because look, he's got every kind of coffee that you can imagine is pretty much there, right? I mean, when you go into a coffee shop, yes, you get flavors, but that range of variety, that's extreme, right? I mean, it's got every nuanced variation, etc. So it's about thoroughness and having it on hand. So it's an exemplification of the deeper underlying mindset. But also, right, he doesn't just look at, and no, he needs information and feedback, right? So he gives them a small selection of tasters, and then from that, he may give more, but there's process involved, right? And from there, he works further. And this gives him some connectivity, and he's able to extrapolate, obviously, into the moreness, right? So extrapolation, again, like in chapter 3, it comes into the process. Very big deal, right? So his intent, not merely to make the perfect cup of coffee for the customer, he went much deeper. Again, part of the culture of the new nobility. Thinking things through to the end, going further. Yes, always going further. And as we're going to see later in the story with a young man, he takes his idea, and yeah, it's a good idea. And it could have just been this ordinary business idea, and that would have been fine. But he takes it further. And in taking it further, there's more on top of more on top of more, right? And this is what they do. They've discovered and understood the value of going further. Don't just get stuck on your first thing. Take it all the way. Take it as far as you can go. And assume that there's more that you don't even know. Unintended, positive, unintended consequence. Moreness. That's positive, unintended consequence. This is moreness. Yes? Yeah. Yes. I like that you've been missing Ursula. Me too. So again, Cornelius, we're kind of done with him. His eruption does come, but it's not written into the story. Yeah. And I might not put it in here specifically. I might put it in as a supplemental work. Yes. Because this story has all of these supplemental works. If you want to go and read this and read the detail of it, fine, if you're interested in that psychology. But it's just something that's mentioned, and yes, it's going to happen, and it happens, and they move on, and there's not really a resolution here, and that's why I didn't really put it in. But there certainly is in the conversations that I had with the individual on whom Cornelius is based now. There was this eruption and denouement, right? And it just kind of crashed from there. And then, like they didn't know what to do with themselves after that. So a true savant coffee novel. Let me continue reading. He not only remembered every customer, but their coffee tastes, of course. But he only needed to do his fitting once. After that, he was able to make modifications based purely on the presence of the customer. So he's not just into coffee, he's into people. Yes? The two are connected. Merely on the presence of the person. Yes? He sees them, he reads them, he hears them, he feels them, and he can see who and what they are. It's not a hypothetical skill. It's not a hypothetical skill. Yes? Once you really learn to pay attention and you learn to hear people, just their very presence it tells you all about them. You don't even have to physically see them to get this. Right? You can get to know people really, really well, yeah, without them telling you anything about themselves. Very few people realize that there's nothing really hidden about us. We walk around naked all the time. There are many who see your nakedness. There's many who can see your nakedness and don't want to. Yeah. But if we really pay attention, we can see what others are about. It's there. It's right there for us to see. Yes. If you want to look, that is. Yes. Not everybody wants to see it. So they don't pay attention, but it's there. And then, of course, most live in this bubble that I'm not looking at you, and therefore I assume you're not looking at me. No, it's just an assumption. And also with the new nobility, they see everything. They see all the warts and all the pimples and all the scars and everything. It doesn't matter to them because they also see the moreness. and they very consciously and specifically will say, I am going to de-emphasize the other stuff and only focus on the moreness and emphasize that. I'm not going to be ignorant and oblivious to this. I know it's there, but I'm going to so much emphasize the moreness that it becomes the whole in actuality. Yeah, in effect, I should say, not in actual, in effect, right? This is the experience, even though the other stuff is still there. In that temporary interaction, that bubble, now you're only interacting with the moreness and you're interacting with a different person. And over time, if you do this long enough, then that lessness goes away because you get habituated to acting with your moreness. The world has taught us to behave according to nonsense ways. Yes, you should be upset when somebody says something that you don't like. Says who? Says some BMN. No, this is what you do. Don't try and make out your nonsense. This is a should. No, right? Or to have vengeance, for instance. Oh, what an idiotic idea, right? All the stuff, the whole culture we live in, it's a nonsense culture. It's an insanity culture. But it's the genius of the universe to say, look, it's just such nonsense. If you're just a little bit self-honest, you're going to say, no, but it doesn't matter that you say this and it's what the world says. It's nonsense. Yes, learn to think for yourself. Don't just accept, because the default is nonsense. Yeah. Right. What he did, Coffee Noble, what Coffee Noble did with the fitting was not to tune into one blend or combination only, but an entire range. He'd make what amounted to a coffee prescription for the customer, assigning blends and arrangements to various situations, moods, or goals. Once a new customer was fitted, he seldom acknowledged them again. Others in the coffee shop saw to that. As like, he's so focused on what he does. It's all about appropriateness. You're done. I don't need to pay attention to you. There's no point to it. It's just time wasting. We're going to say hello, blah, blah. Yes, thank you. Okay, blah. No, I got other things to take care of that are more important. And he's managing time, right? So he's not being rude. He's just being appropriate. It's wonderful. But look what he's doing too. He's saying, okay, here's your coffees. If you're a bit low energy, use this. If you want to, kind of mellow, or you want to be creative, use this, right? If you're looking to be a bit thoughtful, romantic, whatever, right? Different situations, different coffees, right? So these coffees are life prescriptions for different things. Not just one coffee for everything, because that's just not how life works, right? Again, appropriateness. Coffee had just finished fitting Ursula, handing her his prescription. Now remember, use this one sparingly. Don't say you weren't warned, he said without elaboration, his back towards Biella as she walked in. He sniffed the air and said, someone has changed. He spun around, grabbed the chair, marched to Biella, and all but thrust her into it. Be, he commanded, stepping back to observe. Now, all right, Coffee Noble is very dramatic, but it's because he's got such intensity. He cares so much, right? And he doesn't have time for the niceties there. He's not being unpleasant. He's just being super direct, right? And this makes him fun, right? He just does. He does. And because he is fully in tune with himself, right? He has no doubts about what he's doing. He's practiced, he's done it. He's not being falsely confident in what he does. He knows he's in command of his moreness, right? He's an expert at what he does. So he's entitled to do this because he knows what he's doing. But look, he can smell Biella, because of course coffee is profoundly connected to smell also. It's not only taste, right? Smell. So he can feel the air, he can smell the air, right? He can smell Biella coming in, and he can smell the difference too. Now it's not only that he has, right? But it's profound, like, and it's really amazing. I mean, dogs know it. Yes, dogs can smell COVID in you. Did you know that? Cancer. They use them. They use the dogs for COVID and cancer detection. It's incredible. Yeah. So yes, dogs have more sophisticated noses, but they're also more connected to their noses. Our noses are quite sophisticated too, and quite capable of much more than we realize. We're just not trained in that way. Yes. Now some are, like the sniffers. They've got a special name for them that work like in perfume factories. Yes. Smell out the different things. They call them noses. That's what they call them, noses. And many industries use people with sophisticated noses. Yeah. And Beena coming back? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Hello back, Benabulous. Hello back. Hello back.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay. Brilliant, brilliant. I was talking about Coffee Noble and how he and how he's so direct, right? And how he kind of takes charge. And because he is fully confident of his skills. He's tried them, he's tested them, he knows exactly, he's an expert on what he does. So and because he cares so much, and he's so specialized, he doesn't have time for fiddling about. He's very direct, right?
Yes.
Yeah, hang on, Tassaba, hang on. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay. Can't respond to you right now, Tassava. I'm doing the live. So I was saying about smell, that his back is to the door when Biella comes in, but he sniffs the air and he says someone has changed. Not only is he able to recognize Biella, now of course her tread, when you're so attuned to paying attention to people. Now we think Coffee Noble that he's only into coffee. No, he's into people. The coffee is a consequence of being into people, not the other way around. Yeah, that's why
Wow.
he is. Oh yeah, right. It's through coffee he can be of assistance, right? He can do more via the coffee because he can match you up with your coffee and you take that to the extreme end. Okay, I start off making coffee and I want to make you your perfect cup of coffee, which I really like to do. Yes, like when somebody physically visits me, I always ask them how precisely they want their coffee. Yes, and then when they taste it, then they'll say, okay, actually a little bit less sweet or a little stronger, whatever. And I will make those micro adjustments until I can make it exactly right for them. Right. Now, when you go, if I were to really immerse in that, like if I had a coffee shop, right, that can go further because, well, yesterday that was right, but not today. See, so I have to be able to make those adjustments based on your changes. Yes, and now when you go really extrapolate this to the absolute compounded extreme, you now start to say, oh, there's a range, there's a blend, and all of this, right? And this is a very profound thing. And so, of course, you need to really know people in order to make them the ideal cup of coffee. But the ideal cup of coffee is not where it ends, because look, he's making your coffee prescription. Because what you may think you need today is not what you actually need. And this is very often the case, right? When you go to the doctor, you think I need a headache pill, but actually what you need is a muscle relaxant, because it's not that you have a pain in your head. You have tension, which is creating the pain in your head. Right? So to take the headache tablet, which just suppresses the pain, doesn't solve the problem. But the muscle relaxant does. See, so the doctor sees what you don't. Look at the bigger picture. This is typically with experts. They see the bigger picture, right? So he's doing the same thing here. They're doing the same thing. Very, very profound. Yeah. And when you understand this, right, now we see it. But anyway, again, he has that of savants, because he has that ability to hold all of this. I mean, never forgets a customer's name. But once he's done the thing for you, it's like, hey, move on. He's just very into what he does, and there's no time wasting. Time is precious, right? So he's exemplifying many qualities that are important here, right? But he's also an exception. And this is what makes it a fun part of the story, that we're getting moreness on top of moreness on top of moreness, right? So he says right, he sniffs the air and said, someone has changed. He spun around, grabbed a chair, marched to Biala, and all but thrust her into it. Be, he commanded, stepping back to observe. Biala went with it. New nobles always had method to their madness. Right? A little simple sentence thrown in there. But this is capital R receptivity and capital T trust. Yes, he's a new noble. He's not going to be rude. Not possible. Yes. Just not possible.
Yes.
It's not on the table. Doesn't matter that he's being direct. Doesn't matter that he's taking charge of you. Doesn't matter that he may be a bit intrusive. When you come to his shop, you know this about him. All right, the first time you're there, you might not. But that doesn't matter. It's appropriate within the greater context. So of course, he's going to go with it, right? Right? And then, and to understand that there's always method to the madness. When you do this, it makes you capital R receptive. And as Beena, you said, this is how we make space, by understandings like this. Capital T, trust, makes space. Because I trust, receptivity makes space. Because I'm trusting this method to the madness. I don't see it right now, but I'm going to trust, make space. And then the next sentence, Nobelia and adventure in that way. In other words, this type of thing where you don't quite get it at first, but just stick with me and you will. This happens all the time on Nobelia. It's part of life on Nobelia, right? So magic. Biala focused on being a new noble, what it meant to her, the change from aspirant to new noble. She assumed coffee was picking up on that change. Right. Now this would seem very logical, yes, that when he says be,
Yes.
right, because that's just what happened in her life. She went from an aspirant to a new noble. But he says, no, don't be crappy. You're beyond such silliness. And you know it. That's not it at all. Oh, yeah. See, Moreness. She went with the obvious. But again, if you think about it a little bit deeper, this point of being an aspirant and a new noble, Biala's been a new noble for a long time. The group even said when it was pointed out, this anomaly was pointed out, Ursula and Shah pointed it out, and the others didn't get it at first, right? But you are a new noble. And then Biala to say, yeah, but not technically. Technically, I'm still an aspirant. So this is a change she's made a long time ago, which is why her thinking now, this is what coffee must be thinking of. No, because psychologically, the deep, profound change, that happened a long time ago. This technicality doesn't really make that much difference doesn't make any difference really to Biala. Right? Yes, she's appreciative of it, but not in her deeper psychology. It's not changing her behavior or anything, right? So it's not make any difference. So it's not that, right? So Coffee was staring at her with an intrigued expression. His manner may have seemed rude or abrasive, but when one tuned into his intent, only pure care remained. See, there it comes, right? So now this is very important. It's the exemplification of what otherwise could be a whole long seminar, right? But here is being demonstrated. But when one tuned into his intent, capital I intent, only pure capital C care remained. He just did not want to be sidetracked from his intent and his process, right? It's so important what he does. And he's aware that he needs to be very focused. And this is what brings it about, right? Besides, it was always fun when he was doing a fitting. What he was doing now, however, was rare, since Biella had previously been fitted. So this is a new thing that she's never experienced or even heard of before, that he's doing it again with somebody. But again, Biella's an anomaly in our greater world there. She's not the usual. Or at least as far as she's aware that he's not done this before. But, if it had been, it gets out and you know about it and so on. This will be a story now that others would share, right? Whoever's in the story there, or, it'll come out at some point. And then they're open about everything. There's no secrets there. She let go, accepting the confusion of the situation. Coffee would have to be satisfied with that. He stalked her from all angles now. He said, it's the gesture. A complicated case. He was delighted. You have to not be yourself, he said cryptically, and leapt up a ladder to reach one of the topmost shelves. I just love the energy of Coffee Noble, right? You've seen probably people like this. They have this over vibrant
Yes.
energy. They can't walk. They do everything in like leaps and bounds, right? They just
Yes.
that's wonderful, right? Describe his character. You can get it. You feel it, right? He leapt up the ladder to reach into one of the topmost shelves. He scurried about with great alacrity, apparently filling a new prescription for Biella. Nothing for it but to wait. Nothing for it but wait. I think, but to wait reads better. Nothing for it but to wait. Ursula watched it all with much enjoyment. She liked how the new nobles simply adapted without fuss to what came their way. Right there, in that one simple sentence, is an entire profound, life-changing philosophy. Yeah. Ask yourself, look around, and just not only with yourself, but with others. Pay attention to how people adapt to what they need to adapt to. How few do it without fuss. Yes. Something new happens. They have to fuss and bother and and go around in circles and yes, put it off and it has to be a big deal. No, it happened. Change, move on, go. Right? You don't have to make a big fuss and a hoo-ha about things. It's there, it's done, and just go with it. Right? Why waste all the time on the stuff? The inevitable is not going to change one iota by your fussing and bothering and dithering and deliberating and whatever. No, second guessing and all this. No, it's totally, you know it already. It's a done deal. That's it. No point in all of that stuff. And this is a big, 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 big point, right? And this ability to simply adapt without fuss to what came their way. Incredible skill. Incredible skill. Very simple skill, but boy, how few do it and how much time it wastes when you don't do it. You're just delaying the inevitable. And why? Why are you delaying the inevitable? You already know it. What do you need to do this for? Totally unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. She liked how the new nobles simply adapted without fuss to what came their way, instantly embracing the adventure of it. Yes, instantly embracing the adventure of it. That's the point. We don't want to embrace adventure, right? We're scared of adventure. It's the unknown. But it's only the unknown. It's scary. When you think of it as the unknown is scary. When you think of it as adventure, oh, cool. Okay. See, very simple underlying shift of conception. And that's why the dictionary of power is so potent, because it's all about conceptions, right? Unknown, very negative conception that doesn't really help us, got all these fears and doubts. Adventure, wonderful. Yes. Make yourself up for adventure. Learn to be a bit daring. Yes. Yeah. Otherwise, you're not going to have any adventure in your life. And then you're just going to have stress and trouble and lessness and, waste, confinement. You don't have to go on big adventures, but in little ways, right? This is what the joys of living is all about, right? She made a mental note. This is Ursula now. Ursula made a mental note to ask about the capital G gesture. She gathered from the way Coffee had said the word, a special significance applied. Yes. Now, you're aware, obviously, of the gesture here? It's the gesture that it's been mentioned before, that Biella is having with Camillus, right? It was mentioned earlier. So this is Biella dropped again. This is what we refer Beena dropped again. This is what we're referring to. Coffee handed a short list to Biella, as well as a large mug of coffee he'd personally made. A temporary situation only, he said, almost admonishing Biella it seemed, but he gave her a huge smile, saying, "This cup should last you a while. Just be alert. When the time comes, let yourself be, not you." He disappeared into the back with that. Biala joined Ursula. "That was fun," Ursula said. "Yes, coffee is truly amazing. I don't know what he means, but I'll simply trust and wait." And this is very powerful. This is very powerful. He can't explain always. Yes. And if he explains, then you come pre-armed. And now you start making up ideas of what you should do and supposed to do, and that defeats the object. It's about your ability to react in the moment, but he's advising, yeah, and his recommendation is don't react with your usual self. Be not you. Doesn't mean that you're going to be negatively opposite. Just be not you. So let go of your usualness and moreness. Make room for moreness. It's precisely the theme that Beena was so intuitively discussing. Making space. This is precisely what he's saying. Be not you. This means making space for moreness, making space for yous that you don't really yet know and aware of to come into matters and affect things. Yes?
Wow.
Right, Beena? Yes, wow. That's wow. It's exactly what you were talking
Wow.
about. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Right. So be not you. To be not you, it's not saying be opposite you. No, it's to be not you. Right. So if I'm not a tree, what am I?
Oh my God. Okay. So now
You
coming
see?
back to
You
the
see? You see
to
what I'm saying?
the
Sorry.
to the
Just to
yesterday's topic. Yes.
Yeah. So to be not you doesn't mean be the opposite of you. No, it simply means be able to be anything. If I'm not a tree, I can be a dog, I can be a bush, I can be a rose, I can be a star, I can be an asteroid, I can be whatever, right? See? So to be not you, it opens up the entire possibilities of what could be the appropriate you to be in the moment, yes? As opposed to saying, be opposite you. That's a very different thing, right? Don't do what you normally do. It's kind of a different way to say, because then we start thinking of what to do. No, be not you and let it come, let it happen. And in that moment, things will happen. Trust yourself, in other words. This is very important. Yes, says Biala. Coffee is truly amazing. I don't know what he means, but I'll simply trust, capital T, trust and wait. There's not much else in such situations. And this is a great skill. Very simple little sentence again there, but look at it from a life practice application point of view. I'll simply trust and wait. There's not much else to do in such situations. But yet people look for other things. They cannot simply trust and wait. They're too insecure. They cannot simply trust and wait. They have to know. They have to know. You cannot know ahead of time. And when you make an effort to know ahead of time, you're going to presuppose, you're going to start assuming, and you're going to come into the situation with a pre-assumed preconception, assumptions, presumptions, and that's going to affect the situation because it's dynamic. Your assumptions, your intents, your awareness, everything affects the situation. So if you come preloaded, you're not going to actually see the situation as it is because you're going to distort it to conform to what you're seeing. See? And this is the point that Coffee's saying. And Biella is aware. So she says, there's not much else you do. But you can't. If you do it, you're going to disrupt it. And very simple point. But when you think about it, it's like, holy moly, this is a way to be that changes my life entirely. Trust, capital T, trust. Of course, that's built on impeccability, right? And when we say trust, now what am I doing? I'll do everything that I can do. I'll be thorough, and I'll be disciplined, and I'll be diligent, and I'll be conscientious. I'll be scrupulous, right? I'll do everything I can do. Once I've done that, there's nothing else to do but trust and wait. I've done my part, and now this trust and waiting is to, in other words, make space, as you were saying. Right? I'm making space for moreness to come. I cannot make a true space if I have preconceptions, assumptions, beliefs, ideas of what I'm supposed to do. I cannot, in this case, even be my regular me. At the time, I have to let go of that and not be me, because what I need to do is beyond my usual understanding of how to be. An incredible exemplification of making space. Yes, this whole incident here with Coffee Noble, all about making space. Yes, yeah. There's not much else in situations. So will I, agreed Ursula. I'm very keen to see how this turns out. Now, however, yes, the alternative energy, Biala finished for her, having fun with Ursula's enthusiasm. I want to fulfill my promise. I've called a free chat on the Grand Terrace for later, so we have some time for that explanation. Free chat? Later, smiled Biella, when the delegates and Camellias are present. But now, off to Cliff City with us. Biella set off towards the sky chairs, pointing to all the glass of Terminal City as they walked. All the glass you see, most of the other surfaces are covered with see-through solar paneling. Not as efficient, but more than enough for most needs such as lighting and appliances. See-through solar panels do exist, by the way. They way less efficient than regular ones, so that's why they don't get a lot of attention, but they do exist. They're not cost effective for most people. But this is the point of wealth, that you can't necessarily always be looking at cost efficiency. Wealth is the luxury to be able to waste. And when you take that to its endpoint, you can say, yes, we're being wasteful by using a less efficient solar panel. But because we can put it everywhere, we don't have unsightly solar panels, and we're replacing it all on every window, etc. Right? So now we get a greater moreness by being less efficient than we optimally can. If you only think bubble cost efficiency, you lose the greater connectivity, right? And they don't do this. They're always looking at the bigger picture. So very simple point here, but a deep underlying philosophy behind that. This is the entire story. There's always moreness behind that. Always, always. Not as efficient, but more than enough for most needs, such as lighting and appliances. That's excellent, said Ursula, looking at the glass with renewed interest. Such an obvious concept when one thinks about it. Again, this is a deeply profound point here. It's an obvious concept when one thinks about it. This is just life. If we make that effort, like you're saying, making space, you make the effort to think things through, think about it all the way, the obvious becomes obvious. It wasn't obvious before, but now it becomes obvious. It's incredible, incredible. Yeah, reduced efficiency, but with the gain of greater coverage, right? And you actually get the overall greater efficiency. The panel may be more, but this is where shorter term bubble thinking is limited, right? The greater coverage actually gives you more efficiency, and it doesn't cover up all the glorious art. I've been wanting to ask you about that. We have murals on my world. They're relatively scarce as they take extra time and effort. But yeah, all the buildings are covered by them. Every last bit of space, inside and out, is covered in art. Now, all right, just keep in mind, they're walking on their way to Cliff City, and they're going towards the sky chairs, and the story comes on their way to walking there, right? So it's a lot that happens, but this is also Nobelia-Living, right? As you know, Biella, in our conversation, sometimes we're on a path to do something, and then we go on a side tack, and it's a long story, but we don't forget where we're going, right? We keep that in mind, right? So it's going to come as we go into the story. We get to Cliff City. It just takes a little longer than what we might think. Yes, we'll have to try this longer term thinking. It makes all the difference, Norma. When we expand the bubble of our thinking, not just in physical thinking, right? Like I'm thinking about me and inside where I'm sitting, and then take it to the greater house, and then to the city. Greater, but also in time. Yes, in the context of the bigger picture of the world, the universe, how it all works together, and not just in the moment, but in the longer term time as well. When we look at it this way, everything changes, right? Because we can get so caught up in those bubbles, we miss the bigger picture. And then it's more efficient in the bubble, but it's less efficient in the greater context, or less effective or valuable, right? We have to be very, very, very attentive to this. Context is almost a holy word for the new nobility. To truly understand context is to take your awareness into a different place, right? It leverages your awareness like crazy. Yeah. All right. Everything has art to it. Yeah. So then I want to carry on with this art point tomorrow, because there's much to do today, and it's a whole new part of this particular chapter. So this is Coffee Noble, and all right, we're moving on to the art now, because the art is a segue into the story, right? It triggers Biella because she asks about the art, and the art has come about from a deeper point, a deeper philosophy, a deeper understanding, moreness, in other words, right? Thinking bigger context, bigger picture, right? So this is the exemplification of it. Norma, they are. Every single new noble is an artist. Does that mean they paint and sculpt and sing and write? No, not all of them. Yes. Yeah. They are artists in their being. This is their art, beingness. It's expressed in different ways, right? But everything they do, they strive to do artistically. Everything, whether it be making food, cooking, cleaning the house, talking to others, doesn't matter. It's always part of them. It's part of their being, right? So they practice, in other words, artistry of being as a concept in my dictionary of power. Artistry of being. Yes. And, we go make sure it's in this dictionary of power. I've got different ones. I want to just make sure it's in there. Oh, no, add it. But artistry of being is a very profound point. It's a very, very profound point. Yes. And when we have this artistry of being, how does that not change our world? Yeah. How does it not change how we live? Beena, you practice artistry of being, maybe not consciously on that conception, but you do. It's what you were doing earlier. No? In your introduction, this is part of your artistry, is to express creatively, to express communicatively, not just to say the basics, but to say it with moreness, to add beauty to it. Yes, this is what art is. It is adding moreness to the simple. This is what art is. Yeah, it's bringing out more. Of course, you do that, Norma. Of course, you do that. Exactly. You practice artistry of being. Exactly. And you wonder why we love you.
Just want to make something obvious for myself, because yesterday you mentioned that and today again it came up into that, like, who we are. Yesterday it was like who we are.
Yes. Oh, I'll go through that real quick.
Okay, we are, we are okay, but first thing, okay, our choices. And today when you were saying that, okay, that creating a space, and then you were saying, okay, you are not you. It means that someone has changed and their choices has changed, and they are not that you person anymore. So by changing choices, we can change, and we do change. So that is something when Coffee Noble was saying something, and I was remembering yesterday what you were sharing about who we are. This is the actual you. Okay, who am I? Who is Beena? Beena is her choices. Beena is her decisions.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the point, though, right?
That our choices has changed. Sorry, please continue.
Oh, no problem. Carry on.
So this is just, I just want to say that for myself, just to make it more obvious and clear for myself, that yesterday when you were mentioning about who we are, this is the question. Oh, who you are? Who are you? We are our choices, and of course more than that, you go into real depth and nuance. But I'm just taking the basics. And when someone says that, okay, you are not you, okay, you just change, it means that, okay, our choices have changed. Our deliberate living starts with making deliberate choices and different choices. We are not that old self anymore. That's so profound, so profound.
If we look at this, when we say who are we? Yes, that was I made a little added on to this point, right? As a topic, as a heading here. Who are we? Yeah, I'll screen share in a moment. Yeah, just there we go. All right. So we take this question and we answer it. That's what I was doing yesterday. And a nice moreness came out of it. Still a work in progress, but fine. So we take, first of all, the sort of starting point typically when we say who are we, and the answer to the question comes via our likes and dislikes. Yes, we define ourselves according to our likes and dislikes. Now, those likes and dislikes, they are typically our defaults and assimilations.
Yes.
Right now, I want to add here assimilations, because the defaults we don't necessarily choose. I mean, right? This basically, you get told what to like and dislike by society, at least what you should like and dislike, right? And you may come into the world with some default likes and dislikes, but they don't necessarily define you. And if they do, you end up to be a very limited person, right? Right. So that's our first stage of who are we, right? And it's a very limited way of understanding who you are. Then as we get a little bit further, right? And so we have likes and dislikes, and you see the dash there. defaults and assimilations. What is important? What matters? Now we get to choices. But then we got to say, wait a second, I choose all this, but that doesn't really make me either because, well, I haven't acted on any of it. When you start to apply it, now you become more. You become more than just those choices of what's important to you, but because now you have the choice to apply. But now the fact that you can apply it, this changes your self-conception very profoundly. Yes, I choose to be patient, but can I apply it? Am I in fact patient? Yes, I'm defined as somebody who wants to be patient, but that's not the same as being a conception of, oh, yes, I'm somebody who values patience. It's very different to saying I'm someone who's able to be patient. Two different self-conceptions, yes? To value patience is one thing. To be able to apply it, quite another. Yes, but many define themselves by what they value because it makes them feel good. Yes, I value goodness. I value caring. I value responsibility. I value patience. I value impeccability and thoroughness. Do I apply it? No. It's all BS, in other words. Right. Yeah. Now some do it consciously as BS. Others don't realize that it's a bit hollow, right? It's unintentional. They think they could be, they want to be, but they never really made the effort to find out whether they can or not. So abilities and competence, a new contextual understanding of who you are. And then you get to the, yes, now I'm applying, I'm doing, I'm putting this in. And now I suddenly discover that, wait a second, I've got some personal power. I can make things happen. I can do more than what I thought I could do. I'm starting to access moreness via skilled conceptuality. In other words, I can make space for things to happen. Abstract awareness, right? And this is under the greater category of moreness, right? So we have the defaults, choices, application, moreness, little path. Yes. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
Very cool. We all have different selves for different people, though. Yes, those are personalities. Yes, and personality is that's just like your desktop background. Yes, or the theme that's on your phone. That's not you. It's just a surface thing that's as appropriate for the situation, right? Personalities come and go, and we need to have different personalities. That's appropriateness in action, right? So yeah, a different self is a personality is not really a self. It's just a flavor. It's just a style. You can think of personality as clothing. I wear different clothing for different situations, right? Personality the same way. Personality is something you wear. It's not something you are. Yes, makes sense?
Yeah.
I'm not my
Yes.
clothing. I wear my clothing. So when we think of personalities as clothings, then yes, it's very appropriate to have those different selves for different people in different situations. Very important. Very important. It's all about appropriateness. Yes. Yeah. Skilled conceptuality and abstract awareness, moreness. Yes, it feels like a self. Yes. And we have to be very careful of this, Norma. We have to be careful of over-identifying with a personality, because that will trap you into this. And some people make their personalities themselves, and it's very limiting, because that is, they can only therefore behave in a certain way in certain situations. Take them out of that, change the circumstance, change the people, and they're stuck because they're so habituated to doing that. They've identified the personality as a self when it's not. And this happens all the time. People get really into trouble with this when they taken out of context, out of their usual, because most people's lives are very much the same, and they try to keep them the same. The minute something new and different comes along, they're thrown for a loop. Yes. I hope you like different personalities. You got lots of them, Norma. I'm just teasing you a bit, but yes, I love different variation. Yes, it's flexibility, it's fluidity. Ow. Oh, it's a grasshopper. I said, I just saw the branch outside my window. They're very loose, thin branches. They move easily. It just moved quite dramatically, and I'm like, wow, what happened there? I thought a bird had moved and flown into it, but that would be very odd for a bird to do that. A grasshopper leapt and landed on the branch. Now it's underneath. I can't see it, but suddenly the branch just moved like out of nowhere, like magic. So I just caught the corner of my eye outside. Yeah. So very interesting. And now it's disappeared. All right. We can communicate with people, children, animals, trees, etc. Exactly what Beena was saying. When we treat everything as an other, as a being, it opens up our world to be able to connect and communicate and interact and perceive and hear and feel. We're making space for moreness to come, in other words. No, it wasn't a hummingbird. And besides, no bird would fly into a branch or a leaf just flying around. If somebody was chasing them, maybe. But even then, you know, this is, they just don't do that. Yeah. I do have hummingbirds around here. I don't often see them outside me here because there's nothing for them to partake. But a little further behind, there is a tree that has little flowers and nectars that they go to. I had one outside the window here chirp at me. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and it made me think of you, Norma. It's like, hey, I need your attention. Just a beautiful little sound, you know. You have a lot of hummingbird quality to you, I feel, in all parts of you, Norma. So very cool, very cool. All right, wonderful, wonderful. Let me get out of this. And any more on this, Beena? I just love it. I just love how everything is so connected, right? Moreness on top of moreness, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Everything is so
Yeah,
connected. I was amazed by when you were saying, and my mind was going through yesterday's conversation when you were sharing about who you are. And
yeah,
then it's like, wow. And then that when Coffee Noble was saying that, okay,
yeah,
not you, like it's really amazing. Wow.
yeah,
Everything is
yeah,
connected. And that is the real magic of way of impeccability, or in
yeah,
any philosophy or any ideology or any kind of knowledge and information. If it is connected, if it makes sense, if it makes a vital connection with their own, with its own other perspectives, then it makes sense. Otherwise, it's all messed and they don't know
yeah,
what they are talking about. But if
yeah,
everything is connecting with the other one, but it and also making a
yeah,
vital connection to that,
yeah,
back and forth, you can check. It's a self-checking mechanism right there for me.
yeah,
Every single time from the beginning till now. When Syl share something, I try to connect it to something else which I have learned in the past and then say, oh, does it make a vital connection? Does it make
yeah,
sense? Okay, let's check. It means I can accept it. I
yeah,
don't need to doubt anything, but I don't. What I do is just to check. Does it sound acceptable to the other's perspective? If they can
yeah,
coexist, can have a vital connection between them, then it's all good. Otherwise, sorry, I'm not going to accept it,
yeah,
no matter who
yeah,
is saying. This
yeah,
is what it
yeah,
is. You don't need to fight or resist. Just receive,
yeah,
check, and see. Okay, yes, if I like it, thank you. If I don't like it, in this situation, thank you, no problem. But I'm not going to acquire it. I'm not going to own it.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
magic of receptivity also right there. Such a
Very
wonderful
powerful.
session, like always, but
Wonderful.
such a
Yes,
thank you
yes.
so much, everyone. Thank you so
Too
much, Norma.
beautiful.
Love you.
Too
And I'm
beautiful.
working on my sore throat. You can hear that it is getting better. Yeah, from
Yes,
yesterday,
I'm glad to say.
much,
Yeah,
much better.
yeah,
And
yeah.
hopefully it will be more better, yes, tomorrow. And
Yes,
we'll have more fun again. So bye,
absolutely.
everyone. Thank you,
Every
Brain.
day
Thank
magic.
you, Syl. Thank you, whoever is going to watch it
Oh,
later.
pleasure,
Thank you so
pleasure,
much,
pleasure,
everyone.
pleasure.
And thank you,
Pleasure,
universe.
pleasure. All right, all right. All right. Bye-bye,
Bye for
everybody.
now.
Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Stop live stream and stop grain and stop recording.